Hi, I'm Sharon Duran, the Program Director of Professional Services. If you are watching this video, you are either a new teacher to OCSD or have agreed to mentor a new teacher. You should have received a mentoring journal and a couple of handouts through the courier from Rachel Mentee. If you have mentored over the last couple of years, you will find that most of the expectations have stayed the same. There are a few changes to the mentor program as required by new legislation. Even if you've been a mentor in previous years, be sure to watch the video again in order to understand the new reporting requirements. Always remember that your mentor is new to the district and quite likely to the profession. It is important that you two watch the video together. As a mentor, your job is to impart your knowledge and share your expertise on instructional practices, content, and district policies and procedures. Your work will impact this new teacher's professional life. As a mentee, your job is to be receptive and have an open mindset. You will work in partnership with the ultimate goal of improved student learning. Now, look at the materials you should have received through the courier. If you haven't received your materials yet, it would be best to postpone the video until they arrive. You can email Rachel Mentee in Professional Services to verify they are on their way. In your packet, you will have a journal with a green, pink, yellow, blue, or purple cover. The cover denotes the type of certificate the mentee holds at the time of hire. If you believe you have the wrong materials, please stop the video and contact Sharon Duran. Mentor, if you have the green or yellow journal, your mentee has a professional certificate and you are going to be paid $450 for your work. If you have someone with a pink, purple, or blue journal, your mentee has a temporary or district certificate or license and you will be paid $650. Please be aware, in order to be paid the complete amount, you must complete everything outlined in the journal and on time. Sometimes mentors wait too long to get started and forget what they were supposed to do. At a minimum, you must complete this journal and the expectations outlined in it. And if you forget, you can always come back to this video. On the inside front cover of your journal is a quarter-by-quarter checklist. If you have a pink, purple, or blue journal, remember you are paid $650 because you have additional meeting and reporting requirements. Also notice that everyone has the requirement to secure an administrative signature and date at the end of each quarter. You are required to schedule a quarterly meeting with the administrator assigned to monitor your school's new hires. Use this time to talk about your successes as a team or your possible needs. Mentees, if by the end of the first quarter your mentor-mentee partnership isn't working, please talk to your administrator or call me, Sharon Duran, so we can make other arrangements. On the inside back cover of the pink, green, and blue journals is a consulting teacher checklist. Notice that the consulting teachers will check in with mentors quarterly to sign off on this. Please make sure you are completing the requirements in a timely fashion and according to the quarterly schedule. The pink journals have a new requirement. Opposite the consulting teacher checklist is a weekly meeting chart. Read carefully the narrative at the top of the page. The mentor is responsible for dating and initialing weekly meetings that have occurred with the temporary certificate teacher. Examples of the different meeting opportunities are provided on the slide. If the mentee worked with an instructional coach, co-planned with a grade level member, or had a conversation with an administrator, those are all types of collaborative activities that can be and should be documented. Now, let's open the journal to page 1, titled Mentoring Expectations. Read carefully together the expectations of the program. The expectations are clearly defined and illustrated. The next 2 pages outline the first quarter mentoring requirements. These are all of those really important jobs that happen outside of the classroom. You will see things like making substitute plans, parent-teacher conferencing techniques, and writing your ippy-dippy. You might choose to meet each week and whittle away a little at a time, or you may decide to take a TDE day and tackle a large chunk of the requirements, whatever works best for the 2 of you. Just remember that you may and probably will need to revisit some of the items throughout the year. During each of the remaining 3 quarters, you will be completing a formative cycle using the formative process model. The formative process model is the backbone of clinical educator training. Many of our mentors hold the ClinEd certification and serve as supervisors to student teachers and upper-level practicum students. Mentors and mentees with 3 or more years of experience, please contact Rachel Money if you are interested in taking the 3-hour clinical educator training course. The formative process model that you will be using is a cyclical process that allows for ongoing support and improvement to your mentee's self-selected area of need. Here's a closer look. The mentee's area of need might be a concern with classroom management, pacing, or transitions, and they select the area of greatest concern. Let's review the steps of the formative process model. Step 1, the mentee identifies an area of need. Step 2, the mentor collects data based on student and teacher interactions. Step 3, the mentor provides feedback and/or strategies. Step 4, the mentee implements the strategy. Step 5, together the mentor and mentee debrief and plan next steps. Now let's take a closer look at each step. The areas of need are ultimately the mentee's decision. The area the mentee chooses to work through should be relating to classroom instruction. Although everyone needs help with their ippy-dippy or the focus platform, and those are important, they do not impact classroom instruction and are not appropriate for the formative cycle. Remember, all of those important skills that happen outside of the classroom are part of your first quarter requirements. It is fine to revisit any of them throughout the year, but if it happens outside of the classroom, it cannot be used as one of the 3 required formative cycles. After the area of need is identified, together you should state how the desired outcome will impact student learning. For example, if the mentee states that they are having a problem with student participation in classroom discussion, that becomes the stated need. The desired outcome on student learning might be something like, the more students verbalize and interact with each other, the more likely they are to make connections to the content. Before leaving this initial meeting, together set a time for the mentor to observe the mentee in action. You should plan to observe for 10 to 20 minutes. In step 2, the mentor has arranged to observe during a time the area of need would be evident. The mentor may choose to use part of his or her allotted TDE days, get someone to cover his or her class, or go during planning. Again, whatever works for you. During this 10 to 20 minute observation, the mentor will record data based on what is happening in the classroom. Stick to the facts and avoid writing down what you think will fix the problem or what the mentee should be doing. And this is really important. When you go in for those few minutes, look at the big picture. Try to capture everything you possibly can. Later on, you both might discover what was first identified as the problem is not the problem at all. The more observational data you collect, the richer the discussion will be during the debrief. As soon as possible, but not more than a couple of days, the 2 of you will come together again for step 3. During this step, start by letting the mentee read through your step 2 data. Ask him or her leading questions to elicit their understanding of what was actually happening during those few minutes. Together, determine if the identified problem was in fact the area of need, or if something else was causing the problem. Using the evidence as a guide, brainstorm solutions to fix the problem identified and record 1 or 2 strategies for the mentee to try. Mentor, prior to this meeting, you may have need to do some research in order to offer appropriate strategies, like asking the consulting teacher, an instructional coach, fellow teachers, or even thinking of your own past experiences. Just be ready to offer some solid instructional practice strategies. But let's face it, if your mentee knew what to do, they would have already been doing it. One word of caution here. Mentors, be careful not to overwhelm your mentee when reviewing your collected observation data. Remember, they might be brand new to this teaching business, and you will undoubtedly see dozens of things that could use some work. However, for each cycle, focus on what they asked you by highlighting the evidence that addresses one specific problem. Another day, you can revisit the other evidence and those needs. Once the two of you settle on what specific strategies the mentee will implement, record it on step 3. Set another meeting date for 2 or 3 weeks out. Remember, change takes time and practice. As you leave today, the mentee should take the journal to record their experiences while implementing the new strategies. Between steps 3 and 4, the mentee will be implementing the strategies you both agreed upon. Mentee, it's a great idea to journal your experiences every day or so, and that will allow you to see the transition in your practice. Or, in the event the improvement doesn't happen as expected, you and your mentor will have your evidence to review. All of us tend to give up too easily when we are trying to change. So during the 2 to 3 week period, stick with the strategy you selected. At the end of the 2 to 3 weeks, you will come back together. The mentee will have completed step 4, and you will be ready to debrief. In step 5, the two of you discuss the results of the strategy that was implemented. Jot down some notes from this discussion. Finally, together, you will decide if the area of need was met or if more work is needed on that particular area. You may decide to continue working on this same area next quarter when you start cycle 2, or you might be ready to move on to something new. You will want to be sure to check the appropriate box and sign and date at the conclusion of this first cycle. All the documentation can be done via word processing and stapled on the page requiring signatures. Regardless of whether you continue working on this area of need or start something new, you have now mastered the formative process model and you are ready for a new cycle. The cycles set up as quarterly activities. However, you don't have to wait until a new 9 weeks to continue work. The journal is meant to be the minimum. We are hopeful that there will be a lot of interactions between the two of you. As part of the mentoring process, the limited TDE time is provided for each mentee that can be used for your meetings or classroom observations. Thank you again for participating in this training. We are very committed to this process. You will see us in your school asking about how things are going. Please be forthcoming with us. We will be discreet if either of you feel the mentor-mentee relationship is not working. We want a win-win situation for everyone. You are now ready to get started. Be sure to complete the closing activity worksheet. Don't forget to sign the agreement and send it back to Rachel Money in Professional Services. Thank you for participating in the program, and please don't forget that should you have any questions or concerns along the way, reach out to the Professional Services Department.
Hi, I'm Pat Martin, and this is Karen McVeigh. We're part of the Consulting Teacher Program, and today we're going to role play the formative process model for you. Both of you are going to be doing this process 3 times during the year. Our role play is going to represent the conversation that you might have with Cycle A. Hi Karen, how are you doing today?
Hey Pat, it's good to see you.
Man, can you believe we're already in the second 9 weeks? Didn't that go by so fast?
This is going by so fast.
During the first part of the 9 weeks, first 9 weeks, we were working off and on some of the housekeeping issues that are in your journal. Now that that's completed, we're going to be ready to move to the first formative process model. So our goal is going to be to ID an area of need that you have in your classroom, and then we're going to work to come up with some strategies to address it, okay, so that we can help you with that.
Yay.
I want to ask you to share with me, think about it, share with me anything that you think that you'd be helpful for you to work on.
Well, I think the hardest part about being a new teacher is lesson planning. There's just like the teacher edition and then these resources that people have, and I'm not even sure how to begin with my lesson planning. And then focus is a whole nother problem. There's so many things. I need to learn how to take attendance better, and I just have a lot of problems with focus.
I know it kind of gets overwhelming for you as a new teacher. But first, let's talk about lesson planning. I am absolutely going to help you with that, but that does not fall into this formative process model because I'm going to be looking doing an observation while you're in the classroom. But having said that, I'm definitely going to help you with that, and we're going to carve out some time later that we can work on that and get you more familiar with it. I know that it can be overwhelming. You're going to want to make sure that you're addressing everything, so we will work on that. So I'm going to make a note of it here to make sure that we come back and work on it. Okay. As far as focus, hopefully I'm going to be able to help you with that, and if I can't, I'm going to find the technology guru in the school who's going to back me up on that.
Good. Sounds good.
For the formative process model, we're going to focus on what's happening inside your classroom, what you're doing, what your students are doing, what the behaviors are, things that affect the day-to-day workings that's going on. Can you think of something that you want to work on that affects you day-to-day?
Well, probably it feels a little chaotic when the kids are moving from one place to the other. For example, even when I get them in line, they're moving from their desk to the line, but worse is moving from station to station. When I'm trying to conduct small group, they know what to do. I've told them it's on the board, but it's still not, I'm still having to spend so much time talking to them and telling them how to behave. Maybe is there a way that I can learn to teach them how to make that less stressful on me?
Sure, that's a great thing to start with. So what I'm hearing you saying is that you want to work on the transitions to make your time more efficient?
Yeah, transitions.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Can you identify why that might be a problem and what's happening in your room on a daily basis?
Well, the biggest problem is that it just wears me out, and then I become frustrated with the process that's going on in the room, and I guess really, ultimately, we're losing so much instructional time. It just seems like it's taking forever, and I'm not getting a chance to focus in on my small group, which I'm up moving around the room trying to correct behavior.
Okay, so it sounds like losing instructional time is a huge problem. So I'm going to make a note here in step 1 in our journal that the area of need that you want to work on for this cycle is timing and transitions. Okay.
Yes, that sounds good.
So your desired outcome, would it be gaining back some of your instructional time?
Yeah.
Okay, let's put that down. All right. The next step is for me to come in and just observe your classroom, especially when you're doing these transitions. So maybe during your station time, can you think of the time that would be good for me to come in and do that?
Well, we do those rotations somewhere like between 9 and 10. So probably we'd be really into the situation by 9:15, 9:20.
Okay, so I can expect to see those transitions if I come in at that time.
Yes.
Let me look at my calendar. Okay. How about Monday? Would that work for you?
Oh, I'm sure Monday would be great.
Okay, great. I look forward to coming in Monday at 9:20.
Okay, Monday at 9:20. Perfect.
Karen, Again, thank you so much for letting me come into your classroom. I appreciated the opportunity to actually visualize what seems to be concerning your room. What I'd like to do right now is to go over the evidence that I collected in your room. I wrote down only the things I saw happening as evidence, what I saw you doing, what I saw your students doing.
Okay.
You can see that I came in at about 9:21, and I noted that all your students were engaged in the ELA stations. At 9:24, your timer went off to designate move to the next activity.
Yeah.
I noticed that your students started getting up, and I've got here that a couple of students were unsure as to where to put the papers they've been working on. Some students were talking, they were kind of moving around slowly. Well, one man, Adam, I've noticed him from the playground. I know that he was kicking the ball around the room.
Oh.
The students finally settled in at about 9:28.
Ooh. Okay. Wow. That's a little more time than I thought.
There were actually 3 students that were still talking, who were sitting, who are they going to sit with at lunch, so they weren't quite engaged yet.
I'm sorry. That seems like, I'm looking at the time here. That's like almost 4 minutes.
It is, yes.
It's a long time.
Okay. At 9:30, you were actually able to sit down at your teacher table and start working with your small groups.
Yeah.
But meantime, the other kids had little difficulty getting settled down and getting started on the next activity. At one time, I heard you say, focus, focus, and your student said back, everybody focus, but I didn't really notice them focus. Okay, so we'll work on that.
Yeah, we're still a little off on that's. Yeah.
It took a little while to get started, but you said this is what you needed to work on.
Yes,
and we're going to
yes.
work on it.
Good.
Okay?
Thank you.
So your students were working your stations for about 10 minutes, and I did notice that as the students were stationed out across the room, you did a good job of making eye contact with a few.
Okay.
You're able to see what the students were doing. You made some nonverbal corrections. That was great. Okay. Look at 9:41. You had a student at your table that got up to get a pencil, but what he did is he stopped and he talked to a classmate. So not only was he off task, now he's getting another
Other
student
people
off
off
task
task.
while he's doing it. And then another observations that was that students were raising their hands and they were asking you questions while you were with the small group. So it interrupted you and kind of got some of your students off a little
Yeah.
bit. Okay.
Okay. All right.
But again, I noted that you scanned the room, you eyeballed, you had that teacher eyeball thing going on. You eyeballed a student when he was off task, and I could see that he recognized that look and he tried to get back
Good.
on. Okay.
Good. Well, I really appreciate that what you saw is not everything that I saw, and being able to hear you say all these things makes me really realize that we aren't being as productive as I could have been, especially in my small group. And when you mention 4 minutes, if you do that over the course of the day, that could be like 10, 15 minutes of instructional time lost. That's kind of scary.
Absolutely. So let's come up with some strategies to help you win that
Yes,
time
yes.
back. Off the top of my head, one of the things I might suggest that some of our coworkers here at the school do is they've used music
Oh, that's
as
a
their
great
transition.
idea.
So I've seen it happen and I've seen it used effectively. There's lots of websites that you can go for music. I can share some music with you, and certainly there's other teachers at the school who are willing to share with you.
Okay.
Okay. As you're going through this process, though, the key for you to remember is that you're getting ready to implement the new strategy. You've got to come up with a set of rules, you've got to have guidelines, you've got to have expectations for your students, and they've got to learn them. Okay? They've got to know them, they've got to practice them before you can even start using music in the classroom for the transitions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. Well, can you think of a time or a day that you might be able to start this practice using the music during transitions?
Well, I mean, since it's so early in the day now, I might be able to find some music and start practicing this afternoon during dismissal and get the kids adjusted so maybe tomorrow, they'll have an idea of what my expectations will be. I can start fresh.
The end of the day is a great idea, but please remember, before you're ready to actually implement the strategy, you got to be consistent.
Yeah.
You got to carry it through. If you allow things like chatting's going to continue. So you have your mindset for it, okay?
all
They
right.
need to understand that they have some rules to follow. Pardon me. I think we talked about 1 minute being a good time for transitions. I know that's going to seem quick to you, but you'll see once they're on task, it's going to work.
Okay, all right.
Okay, even though I've said that, I want you to know that this is not a time to run, let the students know, this is not a time to run from station to station. We're using our inside feet, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Set all of those parameters in the beginning and have them practice them. I'd like to see you commit to doing this every day.
Okay.
As practicing this and implementing it, make some notes for yourself. What worked, what didn't work, what you need to adjust. You become really good at making adjustments in teaching.
So what I'm hearing you say is I really need to spend some focused time thinking about what my expectations are, and even though I've mentioned them and I have them posted, get that solid in my vocabulary before I start practicing.
What do you want it to look like?
Yeah, and then note some things. I might write some things down that I realize that, well, this person's still not doing this, so find ways to adjust all of that. But I really appreciate the idea that practicing may take away some class time now, but it's going to build class time in later.
It will build a lot. All those 4 minutes that you're going to gain back.
Yeah.
How's it going, Karen?
Oh my gosh, I am so grateful for all the help that you've provided for me. I mean, at first I thought that 1 minute would be so quick and the kids would, we wouldn't have enough time, but really they can do it so much faster than that. And I was wary of spending time practicing because it does take away a lot of time. But like I said, I've built back in so many more minutes to my instructional day because of your great ideas with the music. The music has worked perfectly because it's a set parameter of time, and then once it's off, everybody sort of falls into place.
I don't even remember if I suggested that you perhaps visit another classroom where other teachers are doing it. Keep that in mind as a tool that you can also use.
I can find time to
maybe
do
during
that.
Planning, step into other classrooms.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Well, we're at a place now where we're really ready to move on to another step, or actually to close off this part of the formative cycle. If you feel comfortable with it, we can move on to another part. If you'd like to continue to work on it, we can. How do you feel about it?
I feel like I'm making progress. I know I've got a lot of room to grow, but I definitely feel like it's better. So let's move on to something else.
Okay. We can certainly work on maybe engagement or one of those. The formative process model does provide opportunity for us to work on these behaviors of even one child in your classroom.
Okay, like Adam.
Okay. And you'll see that once you get his behavior change, it's going to have an implication on the entire class, and it's going to improve your instructional time as well. So I'm going to mark this as completed for cycle 1 and cycle 2.
Okay.
And we're going to move on to the next cycle. We'll set up a time here in the next week that we can sit down and talk about the next area of need, so start thinking about that.
Okay, all right. And let's not forget about the lesson planning time.
Thank you for reminding me about that. Let's look at our schedules and set up a time that we can work on with that.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Even though, remember, it's not part of the formative process model, but as your mentor, I'm here to help you and make everything go a little bit more smoothly.
It already
get some of those
has.
kinks out.
You've been so helpful. I'm so appreciative.
Well, I'm happy to help you. Thank you again for participating in this training. We're very committed to this process. You're going to see us in your schools. Please be forthcoming to us. We'll be discreet if either of you feel that the mentor or mentee relationship isn't working. We want a win-win situation for everybody. So let's go over the next steps. In your packet, you have a closing activity together. Both of you should work through the worksheet. Both of you should sign the mentor-mentee agreement, and those 2 papers should be sent back to the professional services. Good luck, and thank you again.